Before we get into it, a little bit of housekeeping. If you can peep the microphone and the changing quality, that can only mean one thing. Gabby has once again so graciously let us use her setup, and for that we thank her. So thank you so much, Gabby, for letting me steal your camera for the afternoon. Also, if you hear my radiator rattling in the background, it's been going off for a full 24 hours now, and I just really don't think there's anything I can do about it. So I really hope with the microphone, it can kind of help alleviate any additional sound that's being picked up in the room. But if it is coming through, I do really apologize. Last thing, if you can kind of see my eyes darting back and forth between the camera and over here, it's because I have a Google Doc open. And again, I just like to do that to kind of help me have something to guide me through the video and just kind of make sure I'm not rambling for like 20 minutes straight. You know, I cannot believe it's November. At the time of recording, it is the second to last week of the month. But as someone who loves music, one of my favorite parts about the end of the year is seeing everyone's like top albums of 2025 when Spotify Wrapped comes out and Apple's attempt with like replay. Really quick, as an Apple Music user and stan, they have really stepped up their game with doing the year-end recap for music. But my biggest gripe is that basically throughout any point of the year, you can tap into and see your replay playlist, which is basically your year-end recap of the music you listen to. So it just kind of sucks because there's no build-up or anticipation for this big reveal. It's just kind of there at any moment when you kind of want to like look at it, you know? All that being said, I thought it could be really fun for this week's video to sit down and, I don't know, just share my top 10 personal favorite albums of 2025. Ooh. This isn't going to be a ranking necessarily because I find that to be really hard. But at the end of the video, I do kind of call out my 3 favorite albums from the year. So I'm very excited to share with you today. Oh my God, this is really fun. I feel like Anthony Fantano or something. So let's do it. Starting off with a banger. This album came out at the tail end of 2024, but then there was like a re-release in early 2025. So kind of all of that considered, I'm just going to throw it into an album that came out this year. And that is the deluxe version of SOS, Lana by SZA. I'm immediately breaking my own rule right now when I was like, oh, I'll share my favorites at the end of the video, but I kind of had to start off with a banger because this is one of my favorite albums that came out in 2025. I wholeheartedly believe that this could have been SZA's like next album and it would have crushed, but I am excited for what she's cooking up next because she's kind of been teasing and talking about that a little bit. Lana is very soft in my opinion, but I do think it is interesting thinking about it tied to SOS because it feels like she's reflecting being on the other side of all the anger and frustration that she expressed on SOS. But what I love about this project though is that through doing that, she doesn't lose any of her confidence or her vulnerability, and both of those things are traits of SZA that I've always really, really loved and admired about her music because she's so introspective and real and says things that for me, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I've been thinking that way too. And it's just, you know, really special that we have her in this world. I feel like tracks like No More Hiding, to me, not only a great opener, but kind of like encapsulate that theme of like the deep breath after kind of crashing out a little bit. I also just selfishly really love that so many songs she teased throughout 2024 when she was playing SOS, like Diamond Boy, BMF, Joni, all eventually like made it onto a version of this deluxe album. But Justice for Nightbird, if you know, you know, it was like one of 3 random songs that SZA just like randomly dropped on SoundCloud in like 2023 and then never made it onto SOS. She then released Lana. They didn't make it onto Lana. And then she posted on Instagram. She was like, I'm coming back for my children. Those are going to be on the updated version of the album. And they all were, but Nightbird, which was my favorite of the 3 that she dropped. So like I said, Justice for Nightbird. This album immediately imprinted on me, and I'm just like forever grateful for SZA and the art that she shares. My favorites are so hard to pick, but I would say the ones that I kept coming back to throughout the year were like 30 for 30, Drive, so good. Oh, you just mad that we went 10 weeks? Yes, okay. Banger. Crybaby is my number 1 period. So yeah, I just really love that album. Isn't this fun? I'm having a good time. So I'm just gonna continue the good vibes and share my number 2, which, whoa, this next album, Eusexua by FKA Twigs. Feel alone. You're not alone. I actually revisited this album recently because on Friday she dropped Afterglow, which is I think is like a deluxe version or expansion of this album, which I haven't listened to yet, but it, I don't know, like brought this album back to the surface for me and made me realize I haven't listened to it in a minute. And I was like, huh, let me just like throw it on and check it out again. And wow, I then and now believe that I've never heard an album like this before. I think it's really impressive when an artist really pulls off their concept. And I feel like you can tell, like, I feel like there's some distinction between like you had the idea and you tried to take it there versus like you had the idea and you did it. You know what I mean? And I feel like with this project, like FKA Twigs really did it. I just really appreciate too. And I think this is kind of what helped not like sell it to me, but it just built the whole universe beyond the music, I guess, was the visuals. I feel like those were just as important and like at the forefront of this bigger project as much as like the songs that made up the album were. And I think that just helped kind of make this like its own like universe. Like it wasn't just kind of like an album. I think it just kind of created like a moment, which was really fun to watch. In my opinion, Perfect Stranger is a perfect song. And then to follow it up with like Drums of Death, which is so weird, but it's cool and unexpectedly catchy. Childlike Things is another highlight for me. It's really, really fun and unexpected as well. But I think what's so cool about that song is hearing how she wrote it originally when she was like 12 or 13 and held on to it for so long and revisited. Oh my God, that's a hard word. Revisited it on this album. And it's just very impressive that she was like writing music like that at 13. At the same time, you can tell like it provides like a little bit of an alleviation from like the more kind of like mature and intense moments of the album. Above all, though, I would say 24-Hour Dog is my favorite song on this album. I think that, I don't know, I kind of read it as like the come down of like the party that is Eusexua, but it's still there and it's still very present because you still kind of have this like pulsating beat that like drives the song and kind of takes it to like these different moments, which is really, really cool. Like I said, I haven't tapped into Afterglow yet, but I'm really excited to now because I don't know, selfishly, I just want to listen to this album like over and over and over again. And yeah, it was just a really, really strong standout for me this year. Ooh, okay. This next album, I wish got so much more attention for how good it was. And that album is Black Star by Amare. The title track and the album art are just so well executed, in my opinion. And when I first heard Girly Pop, which I think was like the second single from this album, I immediately was like, yep, this hits. This is going to be so good. And I was really thankful that the rest of the album not only like held up to that, but exceeded any expectations I had for this project. I remember reading the Pitchfork review and the journalist said that, and I'm totally going to like butcher this, but basically they said something along the lines of this album kind of sets out to do what Renaissance did. And I really agree because this album is so euphoric. It's really original and you can't ignore it. I feel like the moment you put it on and you check it out, at least for me, I immediately was like, I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Like that kind of feeling. Highlights for me are Kiss Me Through the Phone with Pink Pantheress, which she always kills a feature. Like I mentioned, Girly Pop is really fun and Fine Shit. Those are some of the songs that like defined my summer for sure. Without a doubt though, She Is My Drug takes it. That song to me is stellar. It is so good. I can only imagine how hard it is to make a song like that because it covers, samples, interpolates Believe by Cher. It to me like winks at the song and you can tell that's like the source material and like huge like pinpoint of inspiration for it, but it still sounds like her own. Overall, like Amare really delivered, and I'm just very excited for more people to kind of get with the program and tune in because this was just a really, really fun album that definitely soundtracked the later half of my summer this year. I feel like I learned many things in 2025, but I would say one of the more fun things I learned this year was that I really love a live album. And I feel like I really owe that to In the Blue Light by Kalala. I'm not going to lie, I really wasn't tapped into her music much before I discovered this project, but now I'm obsessed. Not only do I think the album is really beautiful, I don't know, it just really resonated with me. I think whenever I listen, I always will think about my time being in New York. And I think that's because she recorded her set at Blue Note. I find it so generous that she shared her memories of going to that venue and then recorded this project at that venue and then, shared it with everyone else. Like, I don't know, it kind of allowed me to take it in and help form my own memories like around Blue Note and around New York. And I think all of that just kind of came together and will just help me always think about like this year I had here, if that makes sense. And I don't know, I just kind of feel like that's what music's supposed to do, I don't know what it is, but halfway through Take Me Apart, the piano is just playing after she did the song and she just goes, wow. And Kalela starts speaking and it makes me emotional like every single time. I don't know, it just like really kicks off the rest of the album for me. And you can just really tell she's like living and being present in that moment. And it's just really, really fun to kind of be a fly on the wall for that. I really want to own a physical version of this record. I can't wait to get a vinyl because I just know that it was made for that. And I have listened to this album a ton this year. It's helped me feel creative and inspired. And I'm just really excited to continue to do that, the rest of 2025 and beyond. This one I'm really excited to talk about because I have been following Amber Mark for a while now, since like her first project, 3:33 a.m. And mark my words, I really, in my bones, feel that Amber Mark is the next in line to have like a Raven Lenae, Olivia Dean moment where she just like pops off. Like I can so see that for her. And I'm really excited for when it comes. I think soon. In my opinion, this album, Pretty Idea, is her most digestible album. Like I feel like you kind of get it on first listen. I don't mean that in a bad way at all, because to reference like Pitchfork again, one thing that the journalist said, basically like Amber really like taps into similar sounds of like the 60s and 70s and 80s, but does it in a way where it doesn't feel like she's trying on a costume and trying to make a song that sounds like the 70s. She's almost using it and taking it and making it her own and just really pulls it off really, really well. Like it's just really a no skip album for me. I already know that Let Me Love You is going to be one of my top songs this year. I really played that one to death. I'm actually seeing Amber Mark perform Pretty Idea in March in Brooklyn, and I'm just really excited because I just know that this album just is going to go from like here, which is already like up there, but to here with like live instrumentation and vocals and things like that. And I've seen videos of her opening for Sabrina Carpenter on tour, and she just already, I don't know, just like has it. And she's so fun and so cool. And I just think that she really delivered an album that you just want to listen to the moment you finish listening to it. So yeah, Pretty Idea was a pretty good idea indeed, because I don't think my 2025 would have been the same without this album. Chat, we're halfway through the list. What do we think? This next one makes my heart a little warm to talk about too, because I have been following this person before they even put out music. And we're going to talk about Conan Gray, specifically Wishbone. I feel like this is the album that Conan was always meant to make. I've always really respected that they're down to try new things and different sounds and productions. But I think that all led to making this album, because I feel like he's really stepped into his own and made something that when I first listened to it, I immediately was like, yeah, this is a Conan Gray album, but in a way that was so original and couldn't be replicated. Vodka Cranberry, in my opinion, is the best song on this album. And I would say one of the best songs that Conan has ever made. But that means that there's still like a lot of huge standouts on this project for me. Songs like this song, Nauseous, Connell. I remember hearing them for the first time and I was like, whoa, like eyes wide open, jaw dropped. They just really, I don't know, like took me there. Throughout this album, like there's a breeze and it's warm. I think it's like an unexpected vibe for a summer album, because I feel like on the surface, it doesn't immediately like present as that. But to me, it still really fits that season and that time of year. And it just kind of feels like the more retrospective moments you have throughout a summer when you're like driving in silence or you're like sunbathing. I just really feel like he did a really, really good job at like encapsulating that vibe. And I also loved the trilogy of music videos he did for this project and how they were all connected. It had the same characters. Again, I just really like appreciated the consideration into making this a whole thing and a whole language with the music and the visuals. Yeah, it was just a really, really fun album that I came back to a lot this year and I really enjoyed. Okay, now we're really getting into it. We're kind of getting close to the end. To be honest, this next one took me a little bit to get into, but That Showbiz Baby by Jade was a huge standout for me in 2025. I've never followed Little Mix, so I don't really have a connection with Jade then. So I've kind of learned about her lore through the music that she's been putting out for this album. Wow, I'm sorry. Like, you just can't deny that she is a star. Angel of My Dreams, I think, is a perfect song, but the track list like is banger after banger, like Plastic Box, Fantasy, Unconditional, Glitch. Like, what is going on? This is really close to a no skip album for me. Silent Disco really like became an earworm, and that was a song I was replaying for a minute there. I don't know. I think what's just really impressive by this album is each song feels like its own moment and individual, but collectively they all still work together, in my opinion, and they work together really well. There's such a fun transition between Self-Saboteur and Lip Service that, I don't know, I just think it would have been cool to potentially see that throughout other moments and tracks throughout the album. And I think just kind of adds like a consistency and a consideration that is really, really cool. And it's like forces you to listen to it from top to bottom. But I don't know, that's just me being greedy, because for what was presented, I think That Showbiz Baby was amazing. Baby. Learning about Jade's story through this music has really turned me into a fan. And I don't know, I just want to see her win. And I think she is, because she really put out a great, great album this year. Chat, I'm scared. I'm scared because I think we've officially entered top albums territory. So we're talking about Sable Fable by Bon Iver. I really loved hearing about Bon Iver's intention when making this album. I remember seeing some interviews and reading some articles and hearing him say that he was very intentional about going into making this album, not making a sad album. If you know anything about Bon Iver's music, there's always a little bit of a cloud looming over it. And so I think it's just really cool to kind of hear a more light version of him through this album. This album is broken up between Sable and Fable, and I think that Sable serves as the more like true to form Bon Iver like music or album, I guess. To me, those songs on that chunk of the album have more mood, they have more environment, but then at one point it's like the curtains are just opened, the sunlight is coming in, and you just immediately feel like that warmth radiating on your skin. And I feel like that's Fable throughout the rest of this album. For me, the run from Short Story all the way down is so good. Songs like Day One and I'll Be There give me like early Chance the Rapper. It just feels like very communal and giddy, but this is only an album I feel like he could have made, and it was really cool to see him collaborate with like Dijon and Haim and just make some of my favorite songs from this year. I actually got a physical copy of the album this year on vinyl, and I don't know, I feel like it made me fall even more in love with this album, like kind of hearing it like physically, I guess. I just continued to play this one to death because there was just so many songs that I just really, really loved. Our second to last album today is Virgin by Lorde. This is a very biased opinion because Lorde is one of my favorite artists of all time. So even when she kind of takes a left turn with her sound, I'm going to pull up and love it. I'm not going to lie, I was thrown off a little bit by the press, I guess, that came out about this album before it was released, because I don't know, I feel like some articles described the album as gory and like gross, and then listening to it, I don't know, for me, I didn't really get that. I kind of understand what they were trying to say, but what just really came to the forefront of my mind when listening was that this album just really feels so raw. To me, the barrier between like Lord, the performer and the artist, and like, you know, Lord and Ella as a person, that barrier and thickness is so thin or almost like non-existent, because there, to me, are so many lyrics and even songs that feel as if they were just ripped out from her journal. And she, I don't know, like you could tell there was an intentionality and a craft to making this, but what I really appreciate is the intentionality was, let's not overthink it. Like, let's take it there. Let's be bold and brave and vulnerable enough to take it there. And let's only make edits when they are necessary to achieve that, rather than like adding these embellishments and other moments just to have it, you know? Songs like Current Affairs and Clear Blue are so personal. It's a little bit like, oh, I just kind of walked into the room and should I leave? But I don't know. That's what I just really like appreciate about this album. You know, is it just, I can really just respect when someone is like, no, like, let me take it there. Honestly, too, experiencing this album live just like really took it there for me. There was an energy in that room that was like unmatched. And I'm just so happy that I was a part of that. I just think that now I also kind of have that memory of the ultrasound tour with Virgin, the album. And I think kind of collectively those two, I don't know, just really meant a lot to me this year. I remember there was one interview Lorde did where she said that there's like a really cool B-side to this album, which as a fan is like very exciting, because I feel like one thing about Lorde is that she, I don't know, I feel like I've heard her say that when she makes an album, she like really focuses on the specific songs and stories she wants to tell. I feel like she's expressed that she's kind of not someone who like goes into the studio and like makes 100 songs and then goes from there. It's just like a very continuous like molding of that clay of one song, if that makes sense. So selfishly, I'm like, girl, drop the extras. We want it. My number one album of 2025 is The Art of Loving by Olivia Dean. I'm really excited to see her name pop up on a lot of people's Year End lists, Spotify Wrapped, and I guess Apple Music replays, because I know that we all fell in love with this album this year. I've listened to, not to be that person, sorry, but I've listened to Olivia Dean since 2020, and seeing her explode into this superstar is everything. And it's just kind of cool to see that everyone else is kind of like caught on. I loved hearing her say in interviews how she kept coming back to the word warm when making this album. And I don't know, I think that's why I kept coming back to it so much, because it just continued to give me that feeling and that energy, especially when I really needed it. And it's just like such a vibe throughout. Like you just can't help but like shake your shoulders a little bit when nice to each other come on. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, you throw on the album to make dinner and you're suddenly like dancing more than you're cooking, that type of vibe. I tear up basically every time I hear Let Alone the One You Love, and she's been performing it a lot recently, and I'm like, oh, it's so good. Another highlight for me is A Couple Minutes. I just think that song is like stellar. I have seen some stuff where people have said like, oh, I wish she just kind of like pushed it a little bit. And I can agree with that. Like I can kind of see that, you know, there are maybe like moments where it could have been like a little different or a little weird, but I don't know, for what I feel like she shared, to me, it's like pretty close to perfect and genuinely like a no skip album. This might be dramatic. When this album came out, I immediately was excited to one day play it for my kids. You know what I mean? It just feels like an album that we're all going to be like, oh yeah, like we all listened to that year, and it'll just feels like really special now. And I just know it's going to feel like really special then too, you know? And I'm sorry, Man I Need is the song of 2025. I say no more. I say no less. This was actually so much fun for me to do. So if you watched all the way through, I really appreciate it. If you're willing to share kind of any thoughts or feelings you have on your favorite albums or music you really enjoyed this year, like feel free to share it. I would love to hear it. There's still some time left, so who knows what the rest of 2025 will give. Maybe I'll have to amend this list early next year, but I don't know. In the meantime, I'm happy with it, and I was just very giddy to share it all. Thinking of you and yours always. And with that being said, goodbye.